The arena was deafening. Thousands of voices blended into one thunderous roar, every cheer echoing like an earthquake. The lights were blinding, sweeping across the hardwood court as cameras flashed, capturing every second of the game. To the fans, it was just another night in the NBA, another matchup, another chance to witness greatness. But for one young player, this wasn't just basketball. This was survival. This was the only place where he could hide his truth. Marcus Hale stood at the free throw line, sweat dripping down his face, eyes fixed on the rim. He looked calm, collected, almost untouchable, the image of every rookie who'd made it to the big stage. The ball left his hands, spun perfectly in the air, and dropped through the net. The crowd erupted. Commentators shouted his name. On the outside, Marcus had everything: a contract, fame, highlights that went viral, and the kind of promise that scouts called once in a decade. But none of them knew the truth. Not the screaming fans, not the flashing cameras, not even the teammates slapping his back after the shot. Because when the buzzer sounded, when the crowd went home and the arena lights dimmed, Marcus had nowhere to go. He wasn't returning to a luxury apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. He wasn't climbing into a sleek sports car waiting outside the player's entrance. And he wasn't meeting friends for champagne celebrations in a VIP lounge. No. Marcus Hale, the rookie everyone thought was living the dream, was secretly homeless. Sleeping in locker rooms when security guards turned away, dozing off in the back seat of his beat-up car, stashing leftover food from team meals into plastic bags, stretching them across days just to keep his body going. Imagine the humiliation. To walk onto a court and hear tens of thousands chanting your name, only to walk out into the night with no keys, no address, no bed to call your own. Imagine the weight of carrying that secret every single day, smiling for cameras, nodding through interviews, pretending everything was fine, while your reality was a storm no one could see. That was Marcus's life, and the silence of his struggle was louder than the cheers of any arena. But how did it get this far? How could someone drafted into the NBA, with a contract worth more than most people will see in their lifetime, be living like this? Was it bad decisions? Was it the league turning a blind eye? Or was there something deeper, something darker behind the curtain of professional basketball? Because Marcus wasn't just hiding from his teammates, his coaches, or the media. He was hiding from himself. He carried shame like a second jersey, heavy on his shoulders, weighing him down every time he laced his sneakers. And every night, when the lights went out, he was forced to face the truth that success on the court couldn't erase the emptiness he felt when he stepped outside of it. Tonight, you're not just going to hear about stats or highlights. You're not going to hear about buzzer beaters or slam dunks. You're going to hear the reality the NBA doesn't show you. The reality that even under the brightest lights, shadows follow. This is the story of Marcus Hale, the player who lived the dream in front of millions while secretly surviving a nightmare alone. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover will change the way you see the game forever.
In tense and heavy form, Marcus Hale didn't look like someone who grew up with nothing, at least not on the court. He moved with a confidence that felt almost royal, explosive first step, wingspan that swallowed defenders, a jump shot that whispered promise every time it left his fingertips. To the scouts who saw him play in high school, Marcus was a sure thing. A future star, they wrote in their reports, built for the league. But behind the glowing words, Marcus's reality was written in silence and scars that no stat sheet could capture. He was born in a small town outside Detroit, in a neighborhood where cracked sidewalks told stories of families struggling to hold on. His mother worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, to keep food on the table. His father? A ghost. Marcus remembered him only in fragments, a loud voice, a slammed door, the night he left and never came back. That hole in his life became a wound he carried into every game, every practice, every sleepless night. Basketball wasn't just a sport for Marcus. It was survival. The gym became his home long before he ever wore a professional jersey. After school, while other kids went back to houses with warmth and dinner waiting, Marcus stayed behind, dribbling alone in the echo of an empty gym. Sometimes the janitor would find him curled up in the corner, sneakers still laced, using his backpack as a pillow. Coaches whispered about his dedication, but few realized that Marcus wasn't chasing greatness. He was running from the emptiness outside those gym doors. College gave him a taste of what life could be. A scholarship brought him to a prestigious program. For the first time, he had a dorm room, meals, and structure. Reporters praised his hustle, teammates admired his work ethic, and fans shouted his name. But when his mother lost her job and the family's house slipped away, Marcus began sending what little he had back home. Nights of studying plays turned into nights of answering phone calls filled with desperation. He promised his mother he'd make it. He promised himself that basketball would save them both. So when the NBA draft came, Marcus took the leap. He declared early, leaving college behind, with the dream of lifting his family out of the spiral. His name was called in the second round. Not a lottery pick, not a superstar, but good enough. The cameras showed him hugging his mother, smiling wide, tears streaking her face. To the world, it was a fairy tale, the boy from nothing finally making it to the league. But reality was crueler. Rookie contracts aren't the millions fans imagine. Taxes, agent fees, debts, and the weight of being the provider for an entire family left Marcus with scraps. And worse, his family's troubles didn't disappear. If anything, they grew. By the time he arrived at training camp, Marcus was already on edge. His teammates drove sports cars. He caught rides with staff. They posted photos from penthouses. He scrolled past them, lying about his own place that didn't exist. Instead, Marcus found himself rotating through couches, sometimes staying in the gym overnight, other times parking his old car in dark corners of the city just to rest. He carried his entire life in a duffel bag, a change of clothes, a toothbrush, and a pair of headphones that drowned out the noise of a reality he couldn't face. On the court, no one suspected. Marcus was all energy, diving for loose balls, taking charges, pushing his body like every possession might be his last. Coaches praised his heart. Fans loved his hustle. But inside, Marcus was unraveling. Nights spent shivering in a car don't mix with the demands of the NBA. Meals scavenged from leftover team spreads couldn't fuel a body expected to compete with the best athletes in the world. He was burning from both ends, and the fire was catching up. Small cracks began to show. Teammates noticed he wore the same hoodie day after day. Some joked about it. Marcus forced a laugh. He turned down dinner invitations, saying he needed rest or had family in town. In truth, he didn't want them to see the lie unravel. He couldn't risk anyone knowing. Pride was his last shield. To admit the truth would mean exposing the shame he carried, the fear of being judged as not just broke, but broken. But even pride has limits. One night, after a road game in Los Angeles, Marcus lingered in the locker room long after his teammates had gone. The air was thick with the smell of sweat and disinfectant, the echo of silence bouncing off the walls. He sat there alone, staring at his sneakers, knowing he had nowhere to go. Hours later, a janitor found him still there, pretending to scroll his phone, pretending he belonged. He smiled, said he was just waiting on a ride, but the ride never came. And this wasn't just one night. This was his life. A secret rhythm of survival that repeated day after day. Play hard, smile for cameras, pretend, disappear into the shadows, sleep wherever he could, wake up, do it all again. And through it all, Marcus carried the weight of a single thought. If anyone found out, if anyone saw past the mask, his dream could end before it even began. But secrets, no matter how well hidden, have a way of surfacing, and Marcus's was about to explode into the light, in a way that would shock his team, his fans, and the entire league. Intense and heavy form. The secret Marcus Hale carried had lived too long in the shadows. It was bound to burst into the light. And the moment came, not in silence, not in privacy, but under the blinding spotlight of the NBA stage. It was a cold night in January. The team was on a brutal road trip, playing back-to-back games that tested even the veterans. Marcus had been quieter than usual, his energy dipping, his movements just a second slower. Coaches chalked it up to fatigue, but teammates whispered something was wrong. Still, when he checked into the game, the rookie fire returned. He threw himself into every play, his body colliding with hardwood as he dived for balls others wouldn't touch. To the crowd, it was heroic. To Marcus, it was desperation. This game, like every game, wasn't just about stats. It was about survival. He couldn't afford to be invisible. Not tonight. Not ever. But as the final buzzer sounded, Marcus didn't join the huddle of celebration. He slipped out, his duffel bag slung over his shoulder, moving quickly down the tunnel before reporters could swarm. Cameras caught the moment, a lone figure in team gear disappearing into the bowels of the arena. Fans thought it was nothing, just a rookie avoiding interviews. But what happened after would shock them all. Hours later, as the team boarded the bus to the airport, Marcus was missing. His phone went unanswered. Calls went straight to voicemail. A search began, quietly at first. The staff checked the locker room, the trainer's room, even the loading dock. And then, one assistant coach found him, curled up in the back seat of his car, hoodie pulled tight, duffel bag under his head like a pillow. He was asleep, not resting before a flight, not waiting for friends. Asleep, because that car wasn't just his ride. It was his home. The truth shattered the silence. Word spread like wildfire inside the organization. A rookie, homeless, during the season. The staff whispered in disbelief. Teammates shook their heads. Some were furious that no one had noticed. Others were speechless, unable to comprehend how someone they saw every day, someone they celebrated, laughed with, trained with, had been carrying a secret so heavy. But the story didn't stay locked in the locker room. It leaked. And once it hit the media, it was unstoppable. Headlines erupted across every major outlet. NBA player found sleeping in car. Rookie's hidden struggle. The homeless star. Fans who once cheered for his hustle now looked at Marcus with new eyes. Some pitied him. Others accused him of being careless with money, of making bad choices. The internet lit up with theories, jokes, and cruel memes. But behind every headline, behind every comment, there was one undeniable truth. Marcus Hale, the young star who seemed to have it all, had been carrying a secret no one could imagine. And Marcus, he broke. The walls he had built, the lies he had told, the pride that had kept him going, all of it collapsed. In press conferences, his voice cracked as he tried to explain. He spoke of his mother, of the debts, of the crushing weight of trying to save everyone but himself. He admitted he had nowhere to go, that the league's checks weren't the golden tickets the world thought they were, and for the first time, he let the world see the boy behind the jersey, vulnerable, exhausted, human. But the climax wasn't just in the revelation, it was in the fallout. Teammates rallied around him, some offering places to stay, others reaching into their own pockets to help. Coaches questioned how the system had failed so badly. Fans demanded answers from the league. How could an organization worth billions allow one of its own to suffer in silence? How many others were out there, hidden in plain sight, smiling for cameras while drowning behind the scenes? And yet, even as support poured in, Marcus felt torn apart. The dream he had fought for his entire life, the image of success, of making it, was now stained by pity. Every glance from a teammate felt like sympathy. Every cheer from fans felt hollow. He wanted respect. He wanted to be seen as a player, not as a tragedy. The very spotlight that once made him feel alive now burned him raw, exposing wounds he never wanted the world to see. The turning point came weeks later. The team was back at home, the season dragging on, Marcus's role in flex. Some nights he played, others he didn't. The media circus had cooled, but the whispers never stopped. During one game, after a particularly tough loss, he sat in the locker room, head in his hands. Cameras weren't there. Reporters had already left. It was just him and the silence. And then a veteran teammate sat beside him, a man with rings, with accolades, with a career most dreamed of. He looked Marcus in the eyes and said, "You survived more than most of us ever could. Don't let shame write your story. Let this be your fire." Something shifted in Marcus that night. The shame didn't vanish, but it transformed. The secret that once chained him down became the fuel that pushed him forward. He realized that the climax of his story wasn't just about being exposed. It was about what he would do next. Would he crumble under the weight of pity, or would he rise, using his scars as proof of resilience? And so, Marcus stepped back onto the court, not just to play, but to reclaim his narrative. Every rebound, every dive, every bucket wasn't just for the scoreboard. It was for survival, yes, but it was also for redemption. To prove to himself, to his family, to the world, that he wasn't just the homeless rookie. He was Marcus Hale, a man who carried shadows but refused to let them define his light.
In tense and heavy form, when the final whistle blew on Marcus Hale's rookie season, his stats didn't tell the full story. The numbers were modest, the kind you'd expect from a young player still finding his place, but hidden behind those numbers was a battle that statistics could never capture. A season not just defined by wins and losses, but by nights spent in parking lots, by meals skipped, by the weight of carrying shame heavier than any opponent he faced on the court. For Marcus, the revelation of his secret had been both a curse and a blessing. Yes, it stripped him bare in front of the world. Yes, it turned him into a headline he never asked for. But it also gave him something more powerful than pity. It gave him connection. For the first time, people saw him not as a superhero in sneakers, but as a human being, a young man fighting invisible battles that millions could relate to. Fans who had once idolized him for his dunks now admired him for his resilience. Parents wrote letters saying his story helped their children understand that even heroes can struggle. Former players reached out admitting they too had faced demons they never shared. The silence that once isolated Marcus had transformed into a chorus of voices saying, "You are not alone." That realization changed everything. Marcus began to speak openly, not just about basketball, but about survival, about pride, about the dangers of hiding pain behind smiles. He visited schools, community centers, even shelters, places where kids looked at him and saw more than an athlete. They saw proof that no matter how heavy life gets, you can still rise, still fight, still dream. His story wasn't about shame anymore. It was about strength born from struggle. But beyond the public appearances and the interviews, the real change was inside Marcus himself. He no longer lingered in locker rooms out of fear.
He no longer hid behind hoodies or excuses. He embraced the scars of his past as part of his identity, because he understood something vital. The true measure of success isn't the size of your contract or the number of fans cheering your name. It's the ability to stand tall even when the world knows your weakest moments, to keep moving forward even when the path is lined with shadows. And the NBA? It too was forced to look in the mirror. Marcus's story sparked conversations about player support, rookie education, and the hidden pressures athletes face. It reminded the league and the fans that behind every jersey is a human being, vulnerable, imperfect, but capable of extraordinary resilience. For some, Marcus became a cautionary tale. For others, he became a symbol of hope. For Marcus himself, he simply became free. In the end, Marcus Hale's journey left us with a truth bigger than basketball. Under the bright lights of fame, it's easy to believe that success erases struggle, but his story proves the opposite. Even in the spotlight, battles can rage in silence. And sometimes the greatest victories aren't measured in points or trophies, but in survival. In choosing to keep going, even when the weight of the world says stop. So what do we take from this? That everyone you meet is fighting battles you cannot see. That pride can silence cries for help, but compassion can break through that silence. And that strength isn't the absence of pain, it's the courage to face it head on. Marcus's life reminds us that our darkest chapters can still lead to the brightest lights, if we dare to keep turning the page. And maybe that's the true magic of stories like this one. They don't just reveal the cracks in a system or the flaws of an individual. They reveal something inside us too. A reminder to look deeper, to care more, to never assume that a smile tells the whole truth, because sometimes the strongest warriors are the ones still carrying invisible battles on their backs. Marcus Hale may have been the NBA player who was secretly homeless, but in the end, he became something far greater, a symbol that no matter where you are, no matter what you've lost, no matter how heavy your burden, you can still rise up, you can still fight, and you can still write an ending that inspires the world.
Intense and heavy form. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think about Marcus Hale's story? Should the NBA do more to protect players who are silently struggling off the court? Or is this a battle every athlete has to face on their own? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice truly matters. And if this story touched you, don't stop here. There are countless other untold stories from the world of basketball, each one carrying lessons about life, struggle, and triumph. Click on the video on your screen now to discover another hidden chapter that will leave you just as shocked and just as inspired.